Hello everyone, welcome back. The Galactic Council ruled the universe for thousands of years, and every civilization observed until Earth. When the Galactic Council demanded humans surrender their fleets, technology, and independence, everyone expected fear. But humanity did something no one expected. They united, planned, and prepared a response that vibrated the galaxy. This is the story of the moment humans refused to kneel.
The Galactic Council had been the ultimate authority of the universe for as long as anyone could remember. Every known civilization, from the tiniest planetary colony to the most advanced star systems, had accepted its rules without question. They enforced their laws with precision, leaving little room for rebellion. Any species that dared resist often disappeared quietly, their planets absorbed or destroyed. The Council's power was so absolute that no being in the galaxy could openly challenge it. Yet now, they had turned their attention to a small blue planet on the edge of the Milky Way Earth. When the first official message from the Council reached Earth, it was chilling in its clarity. The voice, synthesized but unmistakably commanding, demanded total submission. Earth was to immediately recognize the Council's authority over all human activities. From governments to science, from defense to communication, any attempt to resist, the message warned, would bring swift consequences. They expected fear. They expected panic. They expected obedience. But what they did not expect was humanity's response, which would be slow, quiet, and utterly deliberate. Leaders across Earth received the transmission simultaneously. Heads of state, prime ministers, military generals, and the most brilliant scientists were all forced to convene in emergency sessions. The news had arrived without warning, leaving no time for preparation. The Council's message left nothing open to interpretation. It was an ultimatum. The world's population, for the first time, faced a force that could, in an instant, make Earth a controlled territory in a vast galactic empire. The atmosphere in these gatherings was tense. Advisors argued, diplomats negotiated, and military strategists calculated. But the Council had made it clear, negotiation was meaningless unless it ended in submission. Fear rippled through the rooms, yet beneath it, something else began to stir, a quiet determination that no alien authority would control humanity without earning it. The days that followed were strange in their calmness. The Council expected immediate compliance, and initially, it seemed as though the humans would react with the expected panic. Yet Earth's leaders chose silence. They monitored the positions of the alien fleets, observed the signals and energy signatures of ships appearing in the outer reaches of the solar system, and sent out discreet reconnaissance probes. They calculated, they learned, and they prepared. While the Council assumed hesitation meant fear, humanity was quietly assessing its own strengths and weaknesses. They were not just stalling, they were planning. Humans had survived much on their own planet, against every imaginable threat. Civil wars, natural disasters, pandemics, and centuries of internal conflicts had tested them over and over. Despite countless failures, humanity had always adapted, always survived. The Council underestimated this. They saw humans as primitive, divided, and disorganized, a species ripe for control. They did not understand that history had forged in humans a unique combination of intelligence, unpredictability, and resilience. While other civilizations might fold under the shadow of overwhelming authority, humans were different. They learned from observation, they planned with ingenuity, and when cornered, they could unite in ways no one anticipated. Behind closed doors, Earth's leaders put aside differences that had lasted centuries. Nations that had previously been in conflict now shared intelligence freely. Scientists who had competed for decades began to collaborate. Military strategists from every corner of the globe worked together to integrate technology, weapon systems, and communication networks. The Council had assumed humans would act individually, each nation pleading for mercy. Instead, humanity moved as a single, cohesive entity, quietly consolidating knowledge and resources. This was the first shock the Council had never foreseen. The ability of humans to unite against a common threat with speed and efficiency. Technological development accelerated at a pace never seen before. Projects that had been decades in planning were hidden facilities, once only known to a few experts, were brought online. Artificial intelligence systems began to map out potential strategies, predicting the movements of the Council's ships and calculating every possible scenario. Humans understood that brute force alone would not win this confrontation. They needed strategy, cunning, and precision. They combined old knowledge with new technology, building an invisible network of defenses that the Council could not detect. Every move they made was deliberate, designed to surprise and overwhelm an enemy that considered them inferior. The human response was not just military or technological, it was psychological. Leaders understood the Council would underestimate them, and they used that to their advantage. While the Council monitored every signal, they failed to notice subtle messages being sent between Earth's teams, seemingly innocuous but filled with vital coordination instructions. Every calculation and every experiment was cloaked in deception, making humanity appear weaker than it actually was. The Council believed they had time, that humans would eventually submit out of fear. This assumption would be their first mistake. Even ordinary citizens, unaware of the full scale of events, played a part in the preparation. Communication networks were upgraded, energy systems were stabilized, and scientific breakthroughs, once considered impossible, were implemented. Humanity worked as if instinctively, understanding that survival required cooperation on an unprecedented scale. While the Council had relied on intimidation and assumed compliance, humans relied on unity and innovation. Every step taken on Earth was designed not to provoke panic, but to create readiness, a silent strength waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. As the days passed, Earth's leaders held secret councils, debating how and when to respond. The question was not whether to resist, but how to demonstrate that humanity could not be controlled without exposing its own capabilities. They did not want unnecessary destruction, but they also did not want weakness. Their goal was clear: show strength without aggression, readiness without desperation. It was a delicate balance, requiring discipline, patience, and trust across every human organization. The alien fleet, vast and intimidating, moved closer to Earth from orbiting satellites and deep space monitors. Humans observed their positions, their formations, and even energy emissions from their engines. The Council expected panic, but the people of Earth, guided by their leaders, remained focused and calm. Civilian scientists, engineers, and volunteers contributed to simulations and strategies. Even those who had no previous experience with space or defense technology were incorporated into the effort. Learning quickly and applying themselves, humanity was transforming into a coordinated organism, each part working seamlessly with the others. The Council could not have imagined this. In their view, humans were impulsive and chaotic, unable to coordinate on a global scale. Yet what they saw as hesitation was actually calculation. Humanity's silence was not fear, it was strategy. They observed, learned, and waited, preparing a response that would not just reject the Council's authority, but reshape how the galaxy perceived humans forever. For the first time, Earth experienced true unity. Differences of politics, religion, and culture were momentarily set aside. Leaders from all nations worked toward a single purpose: defend their planet and their independence. Not with panic or violence, but with intelligence, coordination, and courage. They understood the Council's power but refused to bow to it. While alien messages continued to arrive, demanding obedience, Earth's preparation continued quietly. Every day that passed increased humanity's advantage. For the Council assumed they had dominance, while humans were quietly rewriting the rules of engagement. Earth had achieved something remarkable. They had united as one species, learned the movements of a far superior power, and quietly prepared a defense that could challenge the Council's assumptions. Humanity's response was not yet revealed, but it was already terrifying in its implications. The Council had demanded obedience, expecting fear. Instead, they had faced a species that refused to submit, a species that had taken the first steps toward a response that would terrify the galaxy, not through brute force, but through discipline, unity, and intelligence. Humanity would answer, but not with haste, not with anger, and not with surrender. They would answer on their own terms. And the Council, for the first time in its history, did not know what to expect.
Let's pause here for a moment. The Council expected fear, but humans reacted differently. They united instantly and prepared. Notice the brilliance: hidden fleets, advanced AI, and defense grids, all without firing a single shot. That's discipline and intelligence creating fear, not violence. This is classic HFY. Humans standing strong because they are clever, adaptive, and united. What would you do if you were in the Council shoes? Comment below. Let's continue the story.
When humanity finally responded to the Galactic Council, it was not with fear, pleading, or excuses. The message they sent was clear, calm, and precise. Earth recognized no external authority above its own people. Every word carried confidence, and every word carried warning. It was a declaration that humanity would never bow to a power that sought to dominate them without merit. The Council, expecting submission, could hardly believe what it was seeing. The species they had considered weak and divided had refused to comply, and worse, that had prepared for something far beyond what any other civilization had done in the past. The humans did not waste time with rhetoric or threats. Instead, they revealed actions that spoke louder than words. All across Earth, hidden fleets and defense systems that had been quietly prepared for months were activated. These were not the crude or conventional defenses the Council had expected. They were precise, highly intelligent systems that integrated artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, and deep space technology far beyond what the Council had previously detected. Ships moved with a coordination that seemed impossible for humans, disappearing and reappearing at points no alien sensors could track. Weapons systems, though capable of destruction, were deployed more to demonstrate control than to inflict harm. Humans were showing the Council that they could dominate a battlefield without firing a shot, and this subtlety made the display all the more terrifying. Earth's fleets began coordinated, maneuvers that confused and stunned the Council. Each human ship moved not randomly but strategically, as though guided by a single mind. Alien weapon systems, which had been considered superior across the galaxy, were rendered ineffective without contact. Shields were bypassed, energy sources were disrupted, and communications were scrambled, all by systems that humans had designed to anticipate the Council's strategies. The sophistication of these defenses revealed a species that had observed, learned, and innovated at a rate that no one in the galaxy had anticipated. Humans were disciplined, patient, and terrifyingly clever. They had not rushed into conflict, yet they had gained an advantage over a power that believed itself invincible. The Council watched as humans displayed this strength, and panic began to spread among their ranks. This species, which they had assumed would bend instantly under authority, was not only resisting but demonstrating mastery over technologies and strategies that could dominate even the most powerful fleets. The realization hit slowly at first, like a cold shadow over their confidence. The humans were not fighting out of anger or revenge. They were acting out of intelligence, coordination, and determination. Every human move was deliberate, every demonstration controlled, and every strategy calculated to leave the Council with no option to underestimate them ever again. Earth's leaders understood the importance of restraint. They could have launched attacks and destroyed fleets within hours, but that was never their intention. Humanity did not seek conquest. They sought survival and respect. They wanted the Council to understand that any attempt to dominate Earth would not succeed, but they also wanted to demonstrate that humans were disciplined, strategic, and morally restrained. This approach was not weakness, it was power. By controlling the demonstration, Earth made its threat more credible than any act of aggression could have done. The Council realized that humans were not reckless fighters. They were thinkers, innovators, and strategists who would use every advantage wisely and without hesitation when necessary. Behind the scenes, humans continued to refine their strategies in real time. Artificial intelligence systems calculated every possible response from the Council, predicting their maneuvers, communication attempts, and tactical decisions. Scientists monitored energy outputs, signals, and fleet movements, instantly adjusting Earth's defenses to counter any perceived threat. Military units, both human and robotic, were coordinated like never before. Earth was no longer a planet divided by nations and politics. It was a single, unified entity, a species operating as one intelligent force. Every ship, every weapon, and every defense grid worked in perfect harmony, demonstrating a level of coordination the Council had never imagined. As this display unfolded, the Council began to reassess its assumptions. They had believed in absolute authority, in fear as a tool to enforce obedience. They had expected humans to plead, negotiate, or falter. Instead, they faced an organized, highly capable species that combined technological sophistication with psychological strategy. Humans did not seek to dominate for the sake of domination. They were showing the consequences of underestimating a species that valued survival, unity, and intelligence above all else. The realization that humans were capable, confident, and patient shook the foundations of the Council's confidence. For the first time in galactic history, a civilization had refused the Council's demands and prepared to defend itself not through chaos, but through unity and intellect. Communication from Earth continued, not as aggression but as assertion. The humans sent messages to the Council that were calm, rational, and unyielding. They made it clear that they did not seek war, yet any attempt at control would be met with a response proportionate to the threat. This display of moral confidence and strategic readiness unnerved the Council. It was one thing for a species to resist, it was another for them to do so with a kind of precision, discipline, and forethought that humans displayed. The Council had faced rebellion before, but never with this level of cohesion and intelligence. Humans were teaching them that power alone could not command obedience. Respect had to be earned, or else it would be met with calculated resistance. The aliens tried to intimidate further. They deployed additional fleets and sent urgent messages demanding immediate compliance, but humans did not panic. Instead, they adjusted and adapted. The Council's ships, massive and technologically advanced, were systematically neutralized in terms of threat without ever being attacked in full. Shields were bypassed, engines were disrupted, and communications were jammed with uncanny precision. Humans were showing that they could disable an entire armada without firing a single destructive shot. The Council realized, too late, that they had underestimated the value of observation, preparation, and collective human intelligence. Civilians, although not fully aware of the scale of the threat, noticed the signs of global coordination and innovation. Satellites were stabilized, energy systems optimized, and hidden infrastructures were suddenly operational. Humanity's readiness was everywhere, even in places where the Council thought they were invisible. This comprehensive display made it clear that humans were not reacting impulsively. They were controlling every variable of the situation. The Council had assumed that fear could control humans. Instead, they were confronted by a species that turned caution into power, patience into strategy, and unity into an invisible but unstoppable weapon. By the time Earth's full demonstration was complete, the Council had no choice but to withdraw. Their fleets, once confident and imposing, retreated with caution and confusion. Humans had shown them a species that could not be intimidated, a species that could plan and execute complex strategies faster than the Council could anticipate. Earth had not attacked, had not destroyed, and had not sought revenge. Yet it had established dominance through preparation, unity, and intelligence. The galaxy watched silently as a new standard was set. Humanity had entered the interstellar stage, not with fear or but with strategic brilliance. The message was clear. Humans would not kneel, and any attempt to force them would be met with consequences beyond calculation. The Council, which had ruled countless civilizations for millennia, realized that the era of unquestioned authority had ended. Humanity had proven that discipline, foresight, and unity were more powerful than raw strength. The galaxy learned, perhaps for the first time, that humans were not a species to be underestimated. The display had not been violent, but it was more terrifying than any war. It demonstrated that humans could act decisively, think collectively, and maintain moral restraint all at the same time. The Council had intended to instill fear, but it was humanity that had become the source of fear. From that moment onward, humans were no longer seen as primitive or weak. They were recognized as a species that demanded respect, one capable of defending itself intelligently and strategically. Earth had responded not with chaos but with order, not with aggression but with control, and not with submission but with unity. The Galactic Council, which had expected obedience, now faced a species that could think, act, and innovate in ways they could not predict. Humanity had not only survived the ultimatum, they had rewritten the rules of engagement for the galaxy. Their response would be remembered for generations. A lesson in intelligence, restraint, and the terrifying power of a united species unwilling to be controlled.
So in the end, this was not a story about humans trying to rule the galaxy. It was about refusing to be ruled. The Galactic Council believed authority came from fear and control. Humanity proved it comes from unity, discipline, and the daring stand firm. Without domination, without surrender. Earth did not kneel, and in that moment, the age of unquestioned galactic power ended. If you enjoy this, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching.